Well, it's not like I have posters of Fabian at home or anything, but for sure I look up to him in the sense that I'd like to be the kind of rider that he is. But with that said, we race together, and there might be times where I let him in if it's sort of a situation like that where he's in the wind and he wants my wheel. But I think most young riders do that for the older riders anyways. It's just kind of a respect thing. But there have definitely been times where we've bumped elbows. For the most part, though, he's very nice with me, and he's very nice with everybody. But he's definitely a guy who's super focused and super concentrated on what he wants to do, and very selfish in that regard, which you definitely have to be selfish if you want to be a successful athlete. And so, no, I look up to those aspects, but I haven't raced with him on the same team, so that's a bit different. I mean, a guy that I do get along really well with, that I have a really strong personal relationship with, is Thor Hushovd, who we're in the same team together, and he's somebody who's been at the forefront of these races for a long time, and so he's kind of more my go-to guy when we always room together at the classics, so we always have a really good time, and no, he's more my go-to guy for just anything, talking advice or whatever. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to know the advice that is given. I got asked that a lot as a junior, as an under 23, like what kind of advice my parents gave me. Almost every single interview, people would ask me about what kind of advice I got. But even with Tor, it's not like there's one thing that stands out. Like on Wednesday, you must do this, and it's like wow. Uh, so there's not really that one thing, but it's just kind of talking through the race, talking through past editions, talking through general sensations during a race, and then sort of the end result. One thing I would always talk to my dad about is, he was a more heavy set dude. He was had quite a bulky upper body, and so he was generally one to suffer a lot throughout stages in the Tour de France or in any race, because he wasn't a climber. But he always advocated that there were so many days where he felt really, really terrible, but by the time he got to the finish, he was still in contention for the win, and he was able to just kind of flip a switch and turn on and be like, hey, I can sprint for a win now, and I can go for a win. So a lot of it, with me also being a bigger rider, is just realizing that everybody else, when I'm suffering, everybody else is suffering, and you can't think that it's just you. And Tor is similar, he's a big guy as well. So it's a lot of what I need to remind myself, and the kind of advice that I get from people like my parents or from Tor, is that you can't really ever mentally shut off or mentally give up. It's because you always have a shot, you always have a chance if you're still there. I generally just sing "Fly Like an Eagle" in my head while I'm riding. No, I don't have a ton of inner dialogue in the race. For sure sometimes you can get a bit negative, and you're like, right from the start, you're like, oh, I don't have it today. But when you start to think that, that's very toxic, and you have to bring that out of your mind and be like, nah, man, it's okay. You're feeling okay. You might not be feeling good now, but maybe you'll feel good later. So just chill out and just suffer through it. I think we kind of, in a way, might get sort of psychopathic with the amount of inner dialogue that we have, because we're doing it, all day. You're going from a position where you feel good to where you feel bad, and you're mentally always trying to convince yourself that it's okay. And suffering is entirely mental. Your legs hurt, but it's just about your head and whether or not you can push through it. So I don't have like a catchphrase, but I do get a lot of songs stuck in my head, and I'm always happy when they're like positive songs, like the "Fly Like an Eagle" song, because I'm like, yeah, okay, fly like an eagle. It was great to win in Dubai. I was really, I put a kind of a big target on that race since December when they came out with the course with such a short opening time trial and then some kind of, not too demanding stages after that. I knew I had a really good chance to come in and win, and I knew, that RCS, they put a lot of media coverage on their events, and it was the inaugural event, and I knew it would be a pretty big win if I was able to go there and do it, and with the class field that you saw there, I mean, for sure, the Fabian Cancellara that was at the Dubai Tour is not the Fabian Cancellara of last weekend, but still for me, it's a really nice positive result, and my first stage race victory as a pro, and a really solid time trial victory in front of a guy like Tony Martin, who I've never beaten in a time trial before. So it's just another step up in the whole process of getting to the top of the stairway. But yeah, I was quite happy with the way that went, and also with the way that the team rallied around me that week. I think jumping into a leadership role is also another one of the steps that I'm currently trying to make, and that's a big thing to do, and it's a role that I fit into relatively naturally, and I'm pretty happy about that. My 3 steps of the 2014 season would be 1, to make it to the final in Roubaix. Not necessarily sprinty for the win, but being up there, 50K to go when the split has been made, and it's, a group of 10 or group of 15 or even in the group of 10 behind. I haven't made that front split in that race yet. I made it in Het Nieuwsblad, and that was the first classic this year. The first classic that I've made that front split in, and so just getting that experience is so vital, and especially at a race like Roubaix that suits me much better. It's quote unquote easier for me to make that selection, but last year I just didn't have the legs to follow it, and I was right there. So that would be step 1. Step 2 would be to make it to the Tour de France on the roster, and make it through the Tour de France. Experience that whole circus before next year's Tour de France that starts with a time trial. That'll be a huge goal for that season. And then step 3 is just to progress even more in the time trial, and focus a lot on the second part of the season and that time trial World Championship. The course details are coming out now, but any time trial, I want to be able to go there and have a solid result. So I start to think more about the TTs after this Sunday when I go back home, but those are definitely the 3 big ones, and the first big step comes on Sunday. So.